Witness Blanket Facilitation Journey by Kortney Kosheluk. My journey with the witness blanket started with my professor, Julie Mackinac. She introduced me and my classmates to the witness blanket. I learned that it was a national monument designed to inspire reflection about the residential school system in Canada. Immediately, I took an interest in it because ever since I started taking Native Studies in high school, I have been fascinated by Aboriginal history and current events. When I first went to see the witness blanket, I was awed at how big it actually was, although I guess it would have to be to include 887 pieces of residential school history from across Canada. Three pieces that stood out to me were the United Church of Canada crests, the picture of Thomas More, and the piano keys. I am a confirmed member of the United Church of Canada, and I remember when the crest was changed to include the colors of the medicine wheel. The picture of Thomas More always fascinated me since I came into contact with it in grade 9, and the piano keys I also found intriguing because of my background in piano. But perhaps what moved me and surprised me the most within the blanket was the piece with Yorkton written on it. Out of all the residential schools across Canada, Yorkton had made its way into the witness blanket in such an obvious way. A few days later, I was presented with the opportunity to do more with the witness blanket. Dr. Shawnee Pete was organizing school groups to come and view the witness blanket, and she was looking to train some people to be facilitators for the field trips. I was very interested in this opportunity and decided to take part in the facilitation. For the past 3 years, I have run field trips at Duck Mountain Provincial Park, and I was eager to run a field trip with a different focus than I was used to. At the Witness Blanket Facilitation training, I received a booklet of information created by Shawnee. The booklet contained lots of information that was useful for the facilitation process. For a copy of the booklet, please visit my blog. We also explored the Witness Blanket site and watched a brief video. I learned that there would be 3 or 4 facilitators for up to 60 kids per group. Each group would stay for approximately an hour, depending on the teacher. I signed up for my first facilitation session, which was on January 29th at 9:45 a.m. I would be running the field trip with my friend and classmate Brandy and a young woman named Jenna, who is in the elementary program at the U of R. Soon we all received a confirmation letter via email from Shawnee. She was very supportive of all of us and repeatedly told us all to trust our instincts and teach our way. I then had some research to do. I explored the Witness Blanket website and learned as much as I could. It is unfortunate that the app for the Witness Blanket was not yet released, because the information that it contains is very valuable to anyone who wants to learn more about the Witness Blanket. I also did some researching on residential schools and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada, which was very interesting. I found many websites that had excellent information. I ended up saving most of the articles, websites, and resources I found to my Pinterest account. Then I moved on to creating an outline for the field trip I would be facilitating. I separated it into different topics that I would be touching on, and then some of the important information that I wanted to include and share with the students that were coming to visit the witness blanket. I also thought that it was important for me to wear a name tag so that the students would feel comfortable asking me questions during their visit. This proved to be very effective, and the students did ask me lots of questions during my time with them. For a downloadable copy of the outline I used for the facilitation of the field trips, again, please visit my blog. I had the grade 5, 6, 7, 8 students first write down anything they knew about residential schools. This went over very well, and they were all eager to contribute to the board. At the end of the field trip, I had the students write down something that they learned, or something that they learned more about. I ended up giving the board back to the teacher, and she was going to include it in a bulletin board at the school. The students really enjoyed the witness blanket. A few of them were taking pictures of the artifacts as they were viewing the blanket. They also had a question sheet that they needed to fill out. The students would come to Brandy, Jenna, and me to ask us questions about the different artifacts in the blanket, and we would help them answer the questions they had. One girl in particular was interested in Carrie Newman, who put the witness blanket together. I gave her all the information I could, and she was excited to learn more about him. Here are all the students from Sedley School that participated in the Witness Blanket field trip. They were a great group of individuals, and I really enjoyed the time I got to spend with them. Later on, Shawneen sent out another email looking for more facilitators. I agreed to do another session on February 12th. This time, the students I had were in grade 10. They were more reserved than the other group of students I had, but they were still interested in the witness blanket. These students had already learned quite a lot about residential schools. Some started in grade 2. So they had a good knowledge base about residential schools, but I was still able to add to their information. 2 questions that this group posed to me were, how many screws are in this thing, and why is it called a blanket when it's not a blanket? I couldn't speak to the number of screws contained in the installation, but I was able to explain the reasoning behind why it is called a blanket. I explained that the witness blanket was laid out in quilting style, but made out of wood so that it would be able to hold all of the artifacts. After viewing the witness blanket, the students and I had a discussion about some of the artifacts that stood out to them, such as the braids, the pair of skates, the door, the tiles, the $20 bill, and the old shoe. Then we also talked about some of the things that they learned that day, which they included in the board. When the field trips were all finished, Shawneen sent us an email conveying her thanks toward everyone who helped facilitate the field trips to make this opportunity available for all the students that came to visit the witness blanket. When it is time for the witness blanket to leave the university, Shawneen will let us all know because there will be a pipe ceremony and feast to celebrate the time we've been able to spend with the witness blanket. I have learned a lot from the witness blanket, not only from learning about it, but also from helping students learn from it. At first I was sad that it would be leaving the university, but I realized that just because it is gone does not mean that people cannot learn from it. It can live on in the others that saw it, and there will be a memorial wall that remains in the university entitled Working Towards Reconciliation. Most of the students were asked what actions they could do to work towards reconciliation and represent that by drawing a depiction on a small wooden tile. These tiles will be what makes up the memorial. So even though it seems like my journey with the witness blanket has come to an end, it is not really an ending. It is a beginning for me and my first experience teaching students about residential schools.